Good morning, friends, grown-ups, children. It's good to be together. I have a story to share with you this morning, called Geronimo and the Frog. And we'll talk a little bit after the story about why I chose this story and what it has to do with what we're talking about this week at church. I wonder where the old frog goes. Geronimo the grub pondered one day. He swims to the top of the pond and disappears from sight until plop, there he is again. "Why don't you ask him yourself?" suggested a minnow mischievously. For the frog didn't have much patience with young grubs. But Geronimo summoned up his courage. "Respected frog, sir," he began politely. "If you please, sir, there is something I would like to ask you." "I don't please," replied the frog, "but ask away if you must." "Well, sir," Geronimo said very shyly, "can you tell me what there is beyond this world?" "Well, I'll tell you," the frog said scornfully. "There is dry land. Dry land with green grass and meadows filled with golden buttercups and sweet white daisies. And there are blue skies and dreamy white clouds and brilliant sunshine." "Wow," exclaimed Geronimo. He couldn't even imagine a world beyond the dark waters of the pond. "Dry land," he wondered. "Can you swim in it?" "Of course not," chuckled the frog. "Dry land is not water. That is just what it is not." And he blew some bubbles to show his amusement. "Well, what is it then?" Geronimo the grub persisted. "You really are the most curious creature I have ever come across. Since you're so eager to find out what lies above, I'll give you a ride up on my back and you can see for yourself," the frog offered, exasperated by all the questions. Geronimo was delighted. He climbed onto the frog's back and up they went. But the moment they reached the surface, crash! He reeled back into the pond, gasping for breath. He clung to the stem of a water plant, trembling with shock and disappointment until the frog joined him. "There is nothing beyond this pond but death," he wept. "Why did you tell me all those stories about beautiful colors and bright light?" "I told you those stories, as you call them," the frog said sternly, "because they are true. You know only this little pond, so you will not believe there is anything beyond it." And he swam away. Geronimo did not see the frog for many days. But as the days grew warmer, Geronimo began to feel strange. His eyes became large and brilliant, and some extraordinary force seemed to be urging him upwards. He began struggling slowly up a bulrush stem toward the surface of the pond. His brothers gathered round anxiously, begging him not to go. "Don't leave us," they cried. "I must go," Geronimo gasped. "Then promise you will come back and tell us what lies beyond. Don't forget us." "Never," Geronimo answered firmly. "I will never forget you. I will return and tell you what I have seen." And then he was gone. His brothers waited for days, but he never came back. At last, they gave up hope of ever seeing him again. "He has forgotten us," they said bitterly. Geronimo had not forgotten his brothers, but he could not return to them. He had become a dazzling dragonfly, and risen with glittering wings into the sunshine. He could fly over the green meadow with its golden buttercups and sweet white daisies. He could soar into the blue skies. No, Geronimo would not forget his brothers. One day, they too would leave the pond. And one day, they would fly free together. The end. The end. So Geronimo the grub was in his phase of life before becoming a dragonfly, and so he couldn't leave the pond at first. He was so scared, but he wanted to know what lay beyond the pond. Brilliant things. And so why the story about the grub and the frog, you might be wondering? Well, it's because this week in church, we're talking about moving beyond fear, moving beyond discomfort or, spaces and places in our lives that we've constructed for ourselves that might protect us and might also hold us back. Sometimes, even when we can't fix the circumstances, for example, we can't make the virus go away, we can't make injustice go away, we still have a choice if we're going to hide or if we're going to start living our lives. If we're going to be afraid, or if we're going to take some steps forward into a brave space and see what lies beyond our pond, so to speak. So this week, I invite you to think about what you might be afraid of. What might be something about living your life to the fullest that you might be afraid of? And perhaps what is one step that you could take to living out your values, your life, your calling more fully, even given the fear that you might feel? I will be thinking of this as well, and I look forward to hearing what you come up with, what you decide to commit to. And in the meantime, please know I am thinking of each and every one of you and sending you all of my love, that I think of you often, and I can't wait to see you in person so very soon later this spring. Take care, my friends.